And now we want to bring in retired Coast Guard captains Ed Page and Steve White. They each served 30 years in the Coast Guard. They now run the nonprofit Marine Exchange of Alaska. It's focused on aiding safe and responsible maritime operations. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. Let's start. There's a lot of angles to this, but I want to start with the recovery efforts for those road crew workers who fell into the river. Can you give us a sense of how a search and recovery like this would work and the challenges that the divers might face?
Yeah, ahoy, Trevor. Really, the search and rescue phase is over now. That's the initial response, and they're going to be moving to a more deliberate recovery situation through a unified command. It's been set up, and that it will be complex. It will, but that's why they use this system. It's really meant to bring different agencies together and also manage all the different resources under one structure. And that phase will be going down. And it's important to note that during this phase, after the initial, hey, you rush into the fire, you rush into a response, it's much more deliberate at this phase.
At the same time, of course, as this is a multifaceted operation, very different efforts, but just as complicated as the Coast Guard working to refloat and clear that ship from the channel, given this is such an active port. What are some of the challenges in that operation?
They'll break this up into different operational groups. So one group will be looking at the vessel. What do we need to do with this vessel? Do we need to take off containers? Do we need to lighter it in place? Can we get it to a safe place with tugs and, again, in a measured manner? And then there'll be another group that's looking at, hey, how do we help get the transportation covered, the removal of debris, the surveying of the area? Are there other risks that have been created by this incident that need to be looked at? So they will break all this up into specialized ops groups with expertise that are looking at that, not just removing the ship, but recovery of the transportation system.
And we have heard that this bridge was built to withstand a strike from a ship at the time it was built. Of course, today's ships are much, much bigger. Steve, do you see a need for changes to accommodate today's larger ships? Is that even possible?
Yeah, man, Trevor, that is a hard question to answer. You can answer it very succinctly and say yes, but it is such a dynamic process as there are more and bigger ships out there and more smaller ships out there. So the change to the maritime system with these bigger ships requires infrastructure to change, where infrastructure, it's not like a date came out and said, hey, we're going to have bigger ships on this date and everything's going to be ready for it. It's a slow process, and there's a lot of work going on right now throughout the country to make our transportation system more resilient to these bigger ships. But in the meantime, there's a lot of measures that can be done using what is out there. A lot of it's procedural. It's using some of the system that's out there, like tugs for these ships.
Ed, I would love to just get your perspective on this in a similar vein, but I know that you were involved in the Exxon Valdez response and the cleanup. You dedicated yourself to maritime safety. So what preventative measures do you think are a priority? What do you think are necessary to try to keep these kinds of catastrophic incidents from occurring?
We don't want to have another one of these incidents, and I think you can implement some measures, risk mitigation, look at the high-risk areas, high-risk transits, and provide some buffers to manage that risk, reduce the risk through using tugboats or speed of the vessel or what time you do it with the currents and tides, et cetera. There's a variety of things you can do to mitigate the likelihood of this recurring. And then there's other things to do as far as infrastructure development, but that's years out. There are things to be done here in a matter of weeks, going out, maybe days.
Coast Guard veterans Captain Steve White and Captain Ed Page, thank you both for your time.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.